Welcome to the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast, the show committed to helping you dismantle the destructive mindset programs keeping you stuck in the proverbial bunker of poor performance so you can get out of your own way and play to your potential. My name is Paul Salter. I'm a high-performance hypnotherapist and mindset coach with 16 years of experience helping thousands of individuals like you get unstuck. This podcast features a collection of solo episodes, conversations with scratch and plus handicap golfers, and master classes with top experts in the performance psychology space. The one goal? To help you make playing to your potential a habit. It's quite difficult to create a concise introduction for today's guest, just because candidly, his list of accomplishments is extensive. The wisdom, experience, and expertise that you're going to get the chance to learn directly from today is nothing short of incredible. And I'm talking about Dr. Rick Sessinghaus, who, yes, you may know as Collin Morikawa, the two-time major champions, mental game coach and swing coach. He's also the founder and director of the Flow Code Golf Academy, holding a PhD in applied sports psychology and spending decades working at top golf and corporate academies. He specializes in training flow states, resilience, and performance routines to help golfers and high performers thrive under pressure. You know, I choose the guests that I invite to join me on a conversation here very intentionally. And in this decision-making process, I have high expectations. Somehow, Rick blew these expectations away. You're going to love this conversation. There is so much to learn. I encourage you to block out another chunk of time to go back and re-listen because there is so much value and wisdom in what it is Rick shares. So without further ado, let's dive in. Help me welcome Dr. Rick Sessinghaus to the show. Rick Sessinghaus, thank you so much for joining me today. After a long trip overseas at the Open, you're back. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Paul. Good to be back home. It was a great trip, but looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. And we're going to waste no time. I want to start on the theme of resilience. Define resilience for us. What does that mean?
Wow. To me, resilience means no matter what the stimulus and the environment, the outcome, that we can deal with and move on to what's most important next. So a lot of, I think for resilience, we think about when things are going wrong and, I have to bounce back and I have to be resilient. I totally agree with that. But I think what I see is that sometimes success and sometimes we get lost in something going really well and it's hard for us to refocus. So I'm huge into focus. And to me, resilience is that way of composing ourselves, managing our state, no matter what has just happened, for myself to now be able to be in the present moment for what is to come.
That is phenomenal because immediately my mind went to bounce back ability, a negative event. How do we reclaim composure, calm, groundedness? Yeah. But here you're bringing in an often overlooked component because I'm guilty of this too. I have a couple great rounds on the course or successes off the course and it's like, whoo, I'm flying high. But then I struggle to get back to doing what it is I know I need to be doing to sustain that success. Am I hearing you correctly? That's equally important.
It is. And I know most of the time resilience is associated with, again, something goes wrong, bouncing back. I totally get that. Yet I see with special higher level players who do get some success that maybe they start to get a little bit, for a better word, soft and like, things are easy now and things like that. Well, wait a second. No, we still have to have that same state. We have to have that same drive. We have to have the same intensity. And to me, that's a form of resilience too. Like, hey, I still got to show up even though things are great, and not take anything for granted, I guess is where I'm going with that.
I love that. I hear complacency. It's easy to become complacent when our hard work starts to pay off consistently.
Correct. Yeah. And the little things have to continue to go, right? And I think people will unfortunately skip steps because they take it for granted.
Yeah, and for my listeners, they know my background's as a sports dietitian, and this was a pivotal teaching point for a lot of my clients under the topic of sustainable weight loss. They've lost the weight, in 30, 60, 90 days, and they used to develop what I would call a case of the I deserve it. I can be a little more lax. I can skip a few things, which seems like what you're alluding to as well. This complacency is easy to fall into, but guess what? You got to keep doing what got you there in the first place.
Correct. I mean, I study a lot of flow, and when we start to believe that the challenge is below our skill sets, we get bored, we get relaxed. Yeah. And so we have to constantly challenge ourselves. And sometimes we have to check in with ourselves like, hey, things are going great, fantastic. Yeah, maybe we need to reset a goal a little bit to push ourselves a little bit more to make sure that engagement stays there.
In your approach to goal setting, and I'll be the first to recognize this looks different with every client, every individual, but if someone has set a 90-day or a season goal, what have you found to be the most effective frequency at which you're checking in to reassess goals based on progress that's been made?
Great question. Let's put our assumption right now that we have, in this case, a golfer who gets to play significantly amount, right? Maybe once a week. Certainly I work with tour pros and high-level players that are playing 4 or 5 times a week. But we have to have at least some benchmarks along the way of, as you mentioned, are we moving towards our goal or moving away from it? Okay. So I look at goal setting with a combination of very long-term all the way down to what do I need to do on this golf shot? The micro goal of how do I do baby steps, and leading towards. And the check-in for a lot of people has to do with score. That's not always where the goals go. Sometimes it might be performance-based, and this is very simple. I usually use strokes gained, but putts per round, right? Mm-hmm. If we know we want to achieve a goal of I want to be shoot 75, and part of that goal right below that is to have 30 putts, and then below that, I start to break it down so then we can manage those a little bit more. The mental game goals are a little bit more challenging to measure because sometimes they're subjective. I was just talking to a junior golfer last night about the bounce back statistic. Somebody makes a bogey or worse. What do they do on the next hole? We can start to measure that. So those become process behavioral goals that I do like to put in. And I know I've gone off of your answer or off your question, but I think I do after every single round, there's some form of an assessment. I think after a tournament, there's an assessment, and then a block of tournaments, there's an assessment. Because now we have so much data with stats, we can look at trends. And those trends sometimes lie to us because of where we played golf, the weather, all that kind of stuff. So I have to that's why I have to ask a lot more questions than just say, look, your putting was this. Yeah, but the greens were at the U.S. Open this year. There were 14 on the stimp meter. And it's how are we going to measure that against 11 and a half on the right? So I think as coaches, we have to look and zoom back out. The player is in their head so much about what that is. It's a balancing act, as you know.
Absolutely. But your answer was perfect because it highlights the big theme of there's always constant, consistent reflection. There's always an evolution and a checking in. Is this working? How well is it working? Is there an opportunity for an upgrade or not?
Yeah, one of the, this is from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who was the godfather of flow, is one of the triggers is immediate feedback. So how quickly you can learn becomes a trigger within itself, and you're constantly assessing is different than judging. That's bad. Instead of saying, oh, that's interesting. That ball went left. That ball went further than I thought. Oh, what can I learn from that? Much different perspective. So now you can flip it to now refocus or make an adjustment on the next shot, hole, tournament, whatever that may be.
Curiosity. That's what I heard from that. I love that. Yeah. For those of you listening, you're starting to notice this is a theme. I'm bringing in some of the smartest, most successful coaches and minds in sports psychology out there, and curiosity is a theme. Rick hit the nail on the head. Let go of the judgment. That harsh inner critic can take a back seat. Just get curious. I shanked that one, or I pulled that one. I wonder why. And that is and you can correct me here or update me, but that's a much better state of mind and emotional state to be in to facilitate further learning, correct?
100%. I tell the story many times. I was a very much of a hothead playing college golf and professional golf. And it was constant judgment and critical instead of learning and curiosity. And it's easy for players to be hard on themselves and say, yeah, I expect a lot. I should be hard on myself. I go, okay, where's that getting us? You want to have high standards, certainly, but part of that is be somebody who's curious, who can learn and pattern recognition. What can I look for here? is a much more important, obviously, trait to have. So yes, we always say, curiosity over critical is kind of our little statement for post-shot routines, post-round routines as we go.
Love that. So we started with resiliency. Is that the same or different than someone who is mentally tough?
Yeah, I don't use the term mentally tough very often. It just doesn't resonate with me. Tough, okay.
What does it mean?
I do like resilience. I do like composure. I do like emotional regulation. I do. To me, I'm regulating something as more of a behavior than being tough. I don't always want to be tough, but I think what it's trying to say is, at least what I hear from mental toughness is, I've just got to be grittier and I've got to try harder. And sometimes you have to try less. And I think we have to sometimes let it go. So I'm very, how should I say this? Careful with the words I use and how I use them to somebody else. And toughness may, for some people, try harder, and that's actually counterproductive. But I think where you're going with it is mental toughness different than resiliency? Yeah, maybe. I think it's more of the grind. I think it's more of just take it on. I think, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't think that that's always the sustainable state somebody would want to be in.
That's the best answer to that question I've had. I'm on this quest to really help listeners understand, like, what's the difference between the mental game of golf, mindset training, or how do I train my mindset, and then where does mental toughness fall into the equation? I love that because I'm guilty. I share this all the time. The first 3 decades of my life, I was emotionally constipated. I was that grinder, just grit. If I do more, eventually I'll earn or achieve more. But I'm a walking example of how that does not always work out that way. You have an emotional implosion or two, and you're spot on. Like, that grittiness and forcing action sometimes is more destructive. You need to step back, let go, and allow opportunities to come to you.
Correct. And you said something interesting there. If I can highlight the difference between like mental and mindset,
Please.
Because for me, mental is a lot about cognitive, about my thinking patterns and about what I'm saying to myself and such. Mindset is a framework of how I view something. So we have a little bit of belief systems. How do I view this? And do I view it as a threat or a challenge or an opportunity, right? So mindset, and we don't, at my company Flow Code, we don't always say have a positive mindset, but be clear on how you're viewing what you're about to take on. Okay. And that's our mindset. Yes, it's part of the mental game. But for us, that framework is a very important starting point for people to say, what mindset am I in, or what framework am I going to take on this first tee or this challenge, instead of a mindset of threat and stress and, oh crap, don't mess up. Yes, that's part of the mental game, but that mindset is something that we really strive to help our clients with.
I love that, the frame. Like I always say, the mental game is what to do and aspects of how to do it in these certain situations. The mindset is yet to use the word framework. I love that. I'm going to take that. I also say it's understanding like what capability do you have in that moment based on what's going on, because you always bring your whole self to the course. And then why are you not doing what you know you need to be doing, which then opens up Pandora's box for the discussions I love to have most.
Sure. Yeah. Those interferences, right? I never say what's negative about something. I'm stealing this from Mr. Galloway, Inner Game of Golf, is this idea of potential minus interference equals results, right? And so we have this potential. All of us have potential, mental, emotional, physical, my tool belt, but do I always tap into that 100%? And the answer is no, of course. But we have interferences, and some people think those are negative. I said, no, an interference could be everything from I didn't sleep very well last night, or hey, I didn't eat very well and my blood sugar is different, or I am focused too much on my competition right now and I don't want to mess up. So I like to look at what those interferences are, because I want to help people with strategies to be able to, and I shouldn't say the word deal with them, but we're going to utilize them and say, oh, this is interesting. That's happening. I can do this now instead to get myself back on track.
Yeah. You're aware of them and you have the strategies to overcome them. And that looks different for every situation.
Correct.
I also find myself stealing from Mr. Galway quite a bit. Brilliant book.
Exactly. I was fortunate to meet him and be at one of his seminars. So
Okay,
we're fortunate. We have I've been mentored by a lot of great people. So it's awesome.
Wonderful to hear. I mean, selfishly, that's why I do this show. I get to learn from individuals like yourself so I can become better personally and to help my clients. So I love this, the giver's gain mentality here is right, which I love. Talk to us about flow state versus a fear state. What are the big contrasting points between the two, and how do we start shifting out of fear into this ideal state of flow?
Yeah, so it's something I've been obsessed with ever since I went back to school and got a doctorate in applied sports psychology, because I was and I'll say it, a failed player who my biggest interferences was the mental game. Emotional regulation was something that wasn't a strength of mine. But at the time, this is 30 years ago, I didn't have answers, and I started getting into personal development, so on and so forth. So fast forward is that at the end of my doctorate, we started to study more about flow. A lot of people think about, it's playing in the zone, which is fine. You can use that term, but flow is a distinctive state that now is proven with brain waves and neurochemicals. We know it's a state, okay? And I just go, wow, we can actually measure this now. So I got really obsessed with something that we could measure. It wasn't just something out there. Be in the zone. And so by going deep dive in that, I started to see a few things. Is one, we have some nervous system stuff. We have there's a mind-body connection. And how are those things interacting? Okay. We now know a lot of that stuff. And then back to the main part of the question is, I believe that learning and performance is state dependent. What state are you in mentally, emotionally, and physically? Okay. Now they're all intertwined. So my thought processes will change my emotions. My emotions would change my physical body. Yet sometimes, and you know this very well, I could get into a situation, start feeling uncomfortable, and I didn't really have a conscious thought. And maybe it's like, there's something going on here in my software program that does not like this at all. And now my body's responding before my thought. Okay. So we have these things that are always interacting, thought processes, emotions, and then my physical state. So when I ask people, has there ever been a time that you've been fearful on the golf course? Of course, the answer is yes. Okay. And you start to unravel that a little bit. And it wasn't necessarily that the golf shot was really hard. Okay. It was their perception of the environment that now created a stressful response. Okay. So now my heart rate's going up. My body is tight. My body wants to get the heck out of there. And it's like, what? It's just a golf shot. Well, no. To them, they're interpreting it as a threat. So fear is the interpretation that this event is a threat. My body is going to, if I don't deal with it, is going to get into a stress response, fight, flight, or freeze. So when people start understanding, they go, Rick, yeah, I've done that on the first tee, or I've done that when I'm trying to win a tournament. It's like, so this is stealing some stuff now back from flow is the skills challenge balance. And when somebody perceives that the challenge is greater than their skills, they're more likely to be anxious and worried. I don't think I can do this. My key word there was perception. I ask all the time, I said, do you have the skills to make a 6-foot putt? And they go, well, yeah, Rick, I'm a scratch handicap. I know how to make a 6-foot putt. I go, great. So you're in the final round of your club championship. You make a 6-footer, you win the tournament. Do you believe you can make it? Well, I don't know about that, Rick. I was like, it's a 6-foot putt. You just told me you have the skills for it. But now I created an environment that the perception is, well, this is worth something. And what if I miss it? And I said, it's still a 6-foot putt. That's what fascinates me about the mental game. It's not the 6-foot putt. It's what surrounds that, back to framework and mental side, that now triggered an emotional response, which my body needed to get ready for. Okay. So now if we look at the other side of this equation, and I want to make it clear to all the listeners here, I don't believe you're either in a fear or a flow state, by the way. Most of where we're at is somewhere in between, everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
But for this, fear state, yes. Oh my gosh, don't mess up. We see it as a threat. As we go to flow, we know a key thing is that we look at it as a challenge. I'm going to take this on as a challenge. This is an opportunity. I can't wait to see how I perform here, right? And that's back to some mindset stuff. But then we also look and go, do I have the skills for the challenge? And we go, Yeah, I've made thousands of 6-footers before. So there is evidence that you have the skills to match the challenge. And so that's what I'm fascinated with, is that it does start with a little bit with mindset when we talk about fear to flow. Mm-hmm. There are other triggers we can certainly talk about that can help us maybe stack it a little bit more to where we know flow follows focus. So your ability to pay attention to the present moment of what's relevant instead of distracted of what's irrelevant. Okay. And then, do I believe I have the skills to match the challenge, which most people would call a confidence type of statement. Mm-hmm. My framework of what does this represent to me, if it represents as a threat or a challenge. And then we start getting a little bit more into the physicality of how my body is going to react. But then the last thing with flow is we have a clear goal. I'm going to hit a 3/4 7-iron, 15 feet left of the hole. It's going to be mid-trajectory. It's going to cut back 6 feet. It's going to land 162 yards. Instead of fear, which is crap, don't go left. Okay, so now we have contrast goals, intentions, focus. So there's a lot of changes. Golf is a very slow-moving sport, really, when you think about it. Gives us, it's the old adage, gives you plenty of time to think. That's the good news and the bad news in the same answer, right? So what are we going to do with that thought process and so on and so forth? So hopefully that answers it. But the main gist of it is fear is looking at it as a threat. Flow is looking at it as a challenge.
I love that. And it's worth reiterating to everybody listening, your subconscious is a master storyteller. So as Rick just shared, the 6-foot putt, yeah, you've made hundreds, thousands of those 6-foot putts, but suddenly when something is perceived to be on the line, your identity, your worthiness is suddenly brought into question because of some story you've made up. Rick, fair to say back to you, our perception is what creates pressure?
100%. I mean, I studied a lot of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and perception is your reality.
Yeah.
Right? So you said it perfectly as far as the subconscious and the stories, the self-identity, all these things that start to bubble up when something is important to you. And do I deserve this? And oh my gosh, it is tremendous. And I think you and I both, it's hard to start with those conversations with clients because it gets pretty deep. But everybody listening, it's there. So if you can start to be honest with yourself of why you're uncomfortable and those type of things, I think is very important. But that perception is built a lot on our belief systems, our values, our past experiences. We have that filter, and then that becomes your reality. Okay. I've had plenty of players that can't wait to go to the first tee and they want to show off in front of people. Man, watch this, man. Okay, you want to see something? And then other people that are going, I just want to get the ball airborne. This is going to be potentially embarrassing. So the event, how you perceive it is going to be your reality. And so we have to sometimes be much more self-aware of it. That's where we're back to the assessment of, hey, when did I feel different on that guy? When did my state change? That's interesting that on that shot, it was more like this and the other one. So to me, that keeps me, I'm fascinated with the whole process.
Well, so you just highlighted the important point you shared earlier, the power of reflection. In this case, it's through the lens of self-awareness. What came up? Why did I feel that way? And again, that lens of curiosity. There's so much gold in non-judgmental curiosity, reflecting on what happened and trying to learn from it. So please hear me when I say that, when Rick says that, there's so much opportunity for growth in that action.
Yes, we're looking for patterns, everybody. And if you're not open to learning, you're going to make the same patterns over and over and over again.
The game's hard enough. You're going to make it infinitely more harder.
100%.
Now, for me, some of my first introductions to flow, because you and I are very similar, like I'm obsessed with this performance psychology, came when I was in my competitive powerlifting chapter of life. It's how can I get myself immensely focused? Because if there is 400 plus pounds on my back, like I could literally hurt myself severely. I better be focused in the moment, not thinking about what's for dinner or my girlfriend at the time. But then, as that chapter of life closed, flow began to fascinate me from like a productivity standpoint. How can I create this ideal environment for 3 hours? I used to call it I still call it my get shit done time, uninterrupted tasks. I'm so creative. I'm so focused. Time goes by in what feels like the blink of an eye, yet it feels like I'm there for 24 hours. Do you ever, with your athletes and your clients, start to engage some of these micro practices around the sensory elements, engaging all 5 senses to help further create focus to lead itself to flow?
100%. So at Flow Code, we believe there's 4 channels to get into a flow state. Okay. 2 of them are going to be kind of out of your control. The environment, like I was at the UK. I was at the Open Championship. I'm at Portrush. I am just in awe because it's so beautiful. The environment could help me get into a flow state, but I can't always control what environment I'm in. So we don't at Flowco talk a lot about environment, but it can help stir that. So even in your office, my environment could affect if I'm distracted or focused, right?
Absolutely.
So I could create a little bit more of that bubble on effect. Another channel is the social end of it. Who you spend time with could get you into a flow state also. But again, on the golf course, you're not always in control of who you're paired with. And in fact, sometimes that could be an interference. I'm paired with somebody I don't like. They have slow play. I can't get. So we don't, yes, that can help us get into a flow, but that's kind of out of our control. So we talk about two major channels. One was cognitive, which we've briefly talked about already, is my mindset, is my self-talk, is how I frame things. That's a cognitive side. I can definitely work on that. And then you just brought up sensory, which we think is a huge thing to help people get into a flow state, is we use a lot of breath work. We use tactile feel. We're going to use certainly posture and how I carry myself. I've even had players in our priming sessions go do the cold plunges or hot saunas or something like that. We change temperatures. So what a lot of those things are driving at is to help you be in the present moment, right? Not many people at first like to do a cold plunge. Okay. But a couple things happen. One, when you're in that, all you can think about is how cold you are. You are not thinking about missing a 6-foot putt. You are immersed in that present moment. And then you have to do some breathing to regulate yourself. And then if you go, man, if I can make it through that and I can regulate my system, I can make it through me being a little nervous on a 6-foot putt. So that is one of those exercises, things you could do. But we're very much into sensory, a lot of breath work, a lot of imagery, a lot of how we use our body, how we feel the club, tempo, because now it's something you could control, and you start to be more aware of like, wow, when I hold on to the club this way, I can feel the club head more. Or, man, I have that rhythm. One of my best friends, Josh Alpert, one of the best coaches out there, there's a lot more of this rhythm and the tempo, and you're like dancing, right? And it's like, now you're not into where the ball's going. You're in your body. So I know that's a very long answer to sensory, but yes, very much so. I think we can use these things to get ourselves in the present moment. Yep. And then once you start to link that, wow, I played well when I did that certain breath work along with that practice swing where I'm thinking about tempo, we start to stack those. And now that can be integrated in our routines.
Phenomenal answer. And I always love how, this mindset specific work is really about getting back into our body, grounded in the present moment, not getting lost in our thoughts, which, 50, 70,000, however many a day, very easy to do. I love the cold plunge / hate it most days, but also love it because of all the benefits you describe. But again, it comes back like for me, the way I view it, a cold plunge experience is an opportunity to build resiliency, which you brilliantly linked to. That's a transferable skill to that 6-foot putt to win the club championship or whatever your next level success or win is. You can build resiliency doing off the course work and bring it to you on the course. And the listener, you need to hear that.
And to double down on that, another reason, and I'm taking this from another sports psychologist, is his belief on confidence was not all about competency, not all about, hey, did I do it right? It's sometimes you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, can I do hard things? And so you look back and say, I said I was going to do a cold plunge. I did the cold plunge, didn't enjoy it, but now I can look back and say, I do hard things and I do what I say I'm going to do, can help build a certain, you say resiliency, a certain confidence and self-belief. Like even if I 3-putt the first hole, I can take that on because I can go into a cold plunge and I can do the things that are necessary that don't always feel good, but I actually take on those challenges and stuff like that too. So that's where I've pulled some of these things that people go, well, that doesn't seem a cold plunge. How could it's like, well, yeah, but once you're done, you're actually proud of yourself. And then you go, wow, if I can deal with that stress, I can deal with it. And people say that has anything to do with golf. I said, it has everything to do with golf. Right. And then you do have that, again, back to the emotion regulation that you've learned how to breath work. You've learned how to do things to where you go, man, it took me 30 seconds, but now I settled in and I can take 2 or 3 minutes in this without being stressed anymore. To me, that's very powerful.
I love that. And two, like physiologically speaking, the cold plunge, since you brought it up, I'm never going to shy away from talking about it, but there's the hit of dopamine, the adrenaline's flowing. That in and of itself, you get, it's that post-workout high that we all love that, many of us might not enjoy our workouts, but the feeling after, we're like, oh, I can tackle anything. You can easily step in and be as productive or as successful as possible if that's the state you continue to practice in and ultimately spend more time playing in as well.
100%. Yes.
Other things that come to mind too under that sensory umbrella, like for me, it's sound, it's smell, it's taste as well. The same, snack from when you make your transition from the final couple of putts or the range to start playing your round. It's the same music. Maybe you have a certain smell. I know when I do my get shit done here in my office, like maybe I've got a candle or something burning. It's just the same thing on clockwork because it breeds familiarity, routine, frees up energy, and we can use that energy creatively and productively.
Yeah. We, I use the term anchoring a lot. So I anchor a state to a specific trigger, right? Bingo. And I've said this a few times is I do a lot of public speaking and presentations. And my business partner, Collin Morikawa, he jokes a lot because I do use music as a way to get myself into a state. And I use Guns N' Roses and I use Welcome to the Jungle and I'm using, and so yet that song may not be good for if I'm coming home to talk to my kids who I know have had a hard day. I'm not going to come in, Welcome to the Jungle. I could use a different type of classical music to calm my state down. So sound is very powerful because you think of music and a song, it can bring you back to that time, right? And we can anchor it to have a certain state. I mean, Rocky movies and Rocky themes, right? Yeah. That just gets you pumped up. So yes, we use sound a lot in pre-round warm-ups. I used to be against this years and years ago about having people warm up with AirPods in or something like that. But now I've seen some of the research and I'm going, okay, if it's helping their state, now they're not allowed to take that out on the golf course, mind you, but is that going to help them prime themselves to get to the first tee if they've listened to some classical music? Or if the answer is yes, then great. It could be a great driver for their performance.
I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of the commentators were discussing that at the Open. A lot of the, let's call them old school individuals related to the respect for the game were commenting how like they just looked down upon that. They frowned upon it. My mind went where yours is. Well, you know what? There's actually some research. If we can get into that alpha brainwave state, get some theta brainwave production, and they're able to get into that state they need to prepare. Why wouldn't you use every edge you can get? Everyone there is already a hell of a golfer.
100%. No. And I think that's what's cool about what our industry is going towards is we have more research than we ever before. I think 20, 30 years ago, it was just something out there. I'll be positive, take a few deep breaths and all. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the time, we didn't have a lot of research to say about like neurochemicals and, hey, when I did this, dopamine goes. And now we do, which is, I love it because when I have these conversations with other golf coaches that may not, let's just say, believe in the mental game as much, because it's back to, you can't track it, you can't measure it. I'm like, oh yeah, I have a device right here that measures brainwave activity and tells me where. It's like, oh, okay. So it gives us credibility, right, Paul, that we got some stuff going on there.
To your nod to Welcome to the Jungle, when I did a kickboxing match many years ago, Kickstart My Heart, that Motley Crue, that's what I walked out to. It was great.
That will get you going quick. Yeah. I love it.
And the round started with a head high round kick. It was great. Conversation for a different day. Interesting you bring in technology.
Yes.
I have two pieces of technology I personally use. I'd love to hear either your experience with it. So for me, NeuroPeak Pro, a breathing device, it just really gives me a vision. Honestly, it's as simple as giving me a visual cue to go through my 4x4, 4x6, 4x8 breath. You're putting it up on the screen, so you must be a fan of that. And then I'll let you come in. The Mendy device or Mendy.io, which is awesome. We're speaking the same language here, is something I'm still relatively new to, but utilizing that to promote blood flow to my prefrontal cortex. You're excited. Tell me more.
Yeah. So this is going back several years is my biggest, because again, I'm still a swing coach. And so certainly you have to measure things. We have video, we have different radar systems devices. That's fantastic. Ground force, all these cool 3D things. So that is light years ahead of the mental game as far as the measurability of the physical game.
Yep.
Yet I'm still going, how do I measure the mental game? How can I? And it's just be very subjective. Hey, were you focused? And my student says, yes. I go, okay, I got to believe you. It's like, now we have some steps going forward. So I've used a lot of different technology. I think we're about 3 to 5 years from them being really good. But let's talk about what behaviors we would want. Well, one behavior is focus. My ability to pay attention to the present moment. And we say, oh, do routines and all that stuff, but we still don't know how focused they are. So you mentioned Mendy. I have used it and I do like it a lot. The simplicity of it, I like a lot. And like you said, bringing the brain flow up to the prefrontal cortex is very helpful for something that's trainability at home. I wanted to go a step further and say, how can I actually measure something while somebody's hitting a golf ball? And my company, we have a little partnership with a company called Focus Calm, which is a basic EEG device that goes on the forehead, measures brainwave activity, and we can in real time know where the brainwaves are going and being able to put interventions on top of that. So, okay, let's do a breath work. Let's see if that number changes. Let's integrate that in our pre-shot routine. We can still see it. We can hit a golf ball with it on. We can track the entire routine, track the entire thing. We at Flow Code will do a lot of group stuff where we will then put somebody in a stressful situation, usually on a par 3 over water, to see, did it stick? Did it? Yeah. Could they do it from no challenge all the way up to a stressful challenge? Now, mind you, that is in one day. That's not fair to the individual because they didn't get to train it enough. What we're trying to show them is that when they were in a closed environment and there was no perceived threat, that breath work actually helped them. They go, oh, I can do something with this. Because we want to empower somebody that they can actually make a change. And when they see the data, when they can feel it, they go, oh, I did that. Maybe if I included that in my pre-shot routine, that would help. And so that's part of that we use Focus Calm is our main one. You mentioned the Intel belt. Fantastic. I've done a study with them on my own breath and how I can improve that. In our Flow Code app, we have well over 60 different breath work, depending on the state you want to get into. So we're big believers in that. The challenge that I've had with technology pretty much up to this point is, can you measure while you're actually playing golf?
And that's been my limitation, I feel.
And that's where Focus Calm has been that's been our solution right now. We have wearable technology, like I'm wearing an Oura ring, right? We have Whoop, we have all these things. Okay, we're on the same page. And I think that stuff's great because it'll give you some big picture. I'm also using HeartMath, HRV sensors. And again, could you hit a ball with it on? Yeah, I guess you could, but it's not really built for that. And the next thing I'm getting into, which I wish I had more info on you, is VR. Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking to a company up, in the next couple of weeks, but virtual reality is getting better and better. And if I could put somebody in a virtual reality and also measure brainwave and measure heart as they're doing it, to me, I'm at least going to simulate potential stress environments for them before we even go out. We also can use the VR, as you mentioned, with sound and images and stuff like that to change state. A lot of what I've read about is you can prime people with their cognitive skills through VR. So that to me is really cool. And then I'm excited. I'm actually opening up an indoor facility here in about 2 weeks. And I'm going to have a golf simulator that has a 180-degree screen on it. So 3 screens. Okay. So I'm going to try to immerse people in a golf shot and measure things at the same time, and then have the interventions to see what works for them. So I'm all in on technology, Paul, and and we can keep obviously contact because I want to know what's out there to help people.
Yeah, I love the man. Sign me up for that 180 immersive experience. That's cool. That's exciting. Good for you guys. Really, really neat.
Thank you.
Now, we've spent, I don't know how many minutes we're at, talking a lot about these action steps, these processes, utilizing some tools, technology, creating a framework, your lens of perception. And I'm going to speak as a devil's advocate for a moment. We've talked a lot about processes, and all these processes are designed to hopefully achieve an outcome.
Correct.
how have you helped your clients remain focused on the process and detached from the outcome?
$1 million question. Not saying that I always achieve that as a coach, but I look at things a little differently, Paul, I think when I was going through and I had a mental game coach back in the day, I was still trying to turn pro. And I still see this as kind of this thread going through, is that it's not about the outcome. It's only about the process. And that did not make sense to me consciously, because then why the hell am I playing and keeping score?
Okay.
Outcome is important. Can we embrace it's important? But we keep saying it's only about the process, it's not about the outcome, because we're now perceiving that people are looking at an outcome in a negative, stressful way. I have plenty of people that outcome helps them focus and helps them get going and get excited. If there's nothing to play for, then why the hell am I playing?
Yep.
So I look at this a little differently. I think outcome is important. Okay. I do believe that having a goal and having a purpose behind it is. I know where your question's going, is that in that moment, I need to detach myself enough to trust that this process is going to lead to that outcome. I've had plenty of people who come to me for a session, and I usually take them on the golf course, and I say, do you have a pre-shot routine? Oh, yeah, I got this pre-shot routine. I go, great. I said, so is it leading to you being focused, confident, calm, and committed? And they look at me and they go, no, I'm just doing what my coach told me to do. So they have a process. The process is horrible. How would we know if the process works? Did I get closer to my outcome or not?
Bingo.
Okay. And even if we say, okay, it's not about a score, but if my process was, I need to be able to get into a process so I'm focused, confident, and calm. And that's all I wanted to achieve, which still is an outcome, by the way, everybody. Okay. Then I get that part. We could then go, oh, was I closer to being focused? Or was I distracted? Did I have doubt? I get that part. But I have a lot of people who say it's not about the outcome. And I go, every flipping shot is about an outcome. You have a target. How about we look forward to hitting it instead of something that we're supposed to avoid? And oh my gosh, don't think about it. No, man, I can't wait to hit that damn ball close. That's part of that. So that's how I view it a little differently, Paul. I understand that there's a dark side of that, is when I'm obsessed with, I have to make par here. I have to do this. And I can't, oh my gosh, if I don't, yes, that's attachment. Totally get it. Yeah. So I want people to have a goal, because clear goals is part of flow, everybody. That's an outcome. How am I going to get that is a process that my best opportunity to hit that golf shot successfully is to be focused with a pre-shot routine that has clarity in my visualization. I have positive self-talk. I have breath work. Whatever that may be, that process that's going to help me be in the state to give my chance to hit it successfully. So I get passionate about that because people push back and say it's not about the outcome. I go, I was just at the Open Championship. I guarantee if you interviewed 156 players there, they all felt that I'm out here to win. I'm out here to play well. There's an outcome involved.
I mean, I had a hunch you had a different answer, which is why I was excited to ask you that. B, you're making my job easier because you mentioned this darkness. You know, sometimes I feel society has ingrained us with this belief, and I say us, I'm generalizing here, many of us with this belief that it's arrogant, it's cocky, it's looked down upon to be like, I'm going to play well. I'm going, to build yourself up, this level of confidence that often teeters borderline arrogant, cocky, however you want to describe it. But then you bring in this part, like there is a little bit of a darkness to it, getting so fixated on an outcome as a way to use it as fuel. So if I am kind of getting at this core, like, is it a useful tool to have a bit of that darkness, or do the most successful athletes and entrepreneurs have a dark side to them?
100%. I have a colleague of mine who did a piece on flow's dark side. I mean, you could get completely obsessed with performance so much that becomes your identity. And part of flow, you start taking more and more risks. And that's why action sports athletes flow, and they take more, right? Because it's that adrenaline, it's that juice that keeps going. Okay. But I think what we're also talking about is this idea of achievement and productivity, and getting that's our only way to define ourselves too. That gets tricky. Okay. That does get tricky. I work with a lot of golfers, especially some younger players, that their whole identity is wrapped to their score. That is a slightly different discussion. But it's so super important because that 17-year-old who all they've been doing is to play golf to get a college scholarship, and their rankings and everything revolves around that. And if they don't do it, not only, and I had this myself, not only do I not look at myself as a good golfer anymore, I'm a failure, but now I look at myself as a failure as a person.
Yeah.
And holy smokes, now we got some issues. So that's when it gets to a point where the attachment is greater than just this one shot. And it's a mirror that, oh, this is how I view myself. And oh my gosh, I have to hit a good shot in order to give myself validation. I'm a good player. I mean, you're right, Paul. It can go sideways quick.
Yeah. And you use a couple keywords like I have to. Now there's this perception, this pressure, and it can be destructive to say the least very quickly on our esteem, our worthiness, what we believe we're deserving of, and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And because it is important to somebody. So that's why they said, oh, maybe I shouldn't care as much. I go, oh, okay, that might work for you, but you're doing this because you do care. So, but give ourselves
ownership of that.
Totally. Yeah. It's good to have things you care about. Come on. That's where passion and purpose comes from.
That's what life is about.
Exactly.
So imagine this situation. It's a competitive tournament taking place, the best of the best amateur golfers. There is a billboard located that can be viewed from every hole on the course. What is the one message reminder you are putting on that billboard to help the players play to their best?
First thing that popped in my head is you're good enough.
Tell me more.
When perceived challenges start to escalate, self-belief and self-doubt becomes that first, I'll call frame or filter. Mm-hmm. Do I believe I can match that challenge? And in this case, when you say it's a high-level USAM type of thing, they're already a very good player. They can hit 98% of the shots they're ever going to need. So it doesn't really become of, do I know how to hit this golf shot? Is, do I believe I can hit this golf shot? So you're already good enough would be my first way, because I think that's the first filter is, can I see myself do that? Yeah. Then I always get to flow follows focus, is just focus on what's relevant in the moment.
Exceptional answer. Rick, this conversation, I had high expectations. It's exceeded them. Thank you so much. Where can the listeners go to learn more about you, Flow Code, and to have the opportunity to work with you?
Awesome. Well, Paul, I really, really appreciate the time and the conversation. I get excited with people who I'm learning from also. So thank you, Paul. Flow Code, flowcode.golf is probably one easy one to go to, or www.theflowcode.com. So theflowcode.com. That's online. On Instagram, it's my full name, Rick Sessinghaus. We do a lot of, I tend to post a lot on there, whether it's, or I'm at a PGA Tour event, or I'm doing things with my clients, or talking about new processes that we're working on at Flow Code. That's the easiest way to contact me. And yeah, I'm excited. I know we're recording this in July of 2025. But yeah, I'm going to open up a Flow Code studio here in Burbank, California, and it's going to be an immersive experience to help people with to get into the flow.
I love that. I mean, you and your team are doing such wonderful things, and I just look forward to all of your growth and being able to support you in any way I can.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And for you listening, thank you for tuning into another episode. I know you found immense value in today's conversation. So do us a favor, go share it with your fellow golfer, the high performer who needs to hear all of the knowledge that Rick shared, and then go listen to it again. Have something handy to take notes. There is so much gold in today's conversation. And if you haven't done so already, it takes 30 seconds to leave a genuine rating, review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to today's show. Thank you again for listening. Have a great week. Hit them straight this weekend, and we'll catch you in the next episode.